Hi, I'm Tavish Cardiff. Welcome to this week's guidance for the Our Raw Material Arena. This week's pillar is emotion, and we've had a bit of an interruption in the middle of this particular cycle of our raw material, which, I mean, these things come along, right? And no matter what you're doing, there's got to be a way to handle the emotions of something coming in a way that doesn't have us holding them any longer than we have to, or have them causing us pain or bringing us deep into disease, discomfort, and the inability to stay present and reasonable and productive and part of creation, part of your own, creating your own environment. So Emotion Week is obviously emotional. We're looking from the perspective of the ocean. And I think this is a really good time to use this particular metaphor because with Quan not being here, it's a daily emotional practice to take in that he's not right there to call. He's not right there to rely on in that way. Rest assured, he is showing up in many, many ways, and I'm grateful for all of the ways, and I think so many of us are, the ways he is showing up if we're listening. But it's hard to listen when we're dealing with emotion, and that is part of this practice. And in so many ways, I am my own testament to the practice right now, because I can't imagine where I would be personally in my beliefs, in my ability to keep moving and working on this, and just generally showing up if I didn't have this practice, if we hadn't been working through it. And I will tell you, over the last 5 years, we've worked it out. And so even a couple of years ago, when my dad passed, Quan and I did a lot of work in the Our Raw Material Arena, hanging out with my dad and deciphering where he was coming in. And it was really fun to seek out connections. And now it's become such a part of who I am and the practice of just being me and living my life that I don't even have to look for those connections anymore. They honestly just show up. And coincidence or miracle or any of the things that deviate from what we know and then create a different kind of situation that leads us into something that feels better is available. So let's start at the edge of the ocean. And even if you've never been at the edge of the ocean, I'm sure there's some imagining of what the tide feels like, of what the coming and going of a wave feels like. So even if you've never felt it, use your imagination right now and let just the tiniest waves come over your feet and recede. And then come back, like maybe up to your shins, and recede. And let's wait for another one that comes up to your knees. And now it's affecting you enough that you've got to shift in some way. Underneath your feet, the water is pulling that sand back, and what your steady stance is no longer steady. The ground is literally being pulled from underneath you, and your stability is rocked. So with every wave of emotion comes the ability to regain footing. If we don't deal with the emotion, if we don't acknowledge it or figure out what bigger, larger trigger of ours that it might attach to, we're going to miss the entire ability to let it go. We are going to stick it somewhere in our body, and it is going to create a discordant something, and we will wind up hurting ourselves or being sick or something to that effect. I can speak to that a little bit because as I go through this practice, I have done from the very beginning, 2020, it started on my left side with an injury that I had when I was very, very young, in my knee, that kind of kept me from having a lot of feeling, and I was able to hide everything from the first 12 years of my life kind of in that knee and knee to foot area where I wasn't feeling things. And because that area was numb, it was easy to not know that I had put it there. In 2020, when I started doing this practice, something forced my body open in ways that it wasn't. I fell on my knee, I cracked my kneecap. The feeling came back at a time where just the timing, let's just say the timing is phenomenal. Universal timing is phenomenal. And the way that it brings us things when we need it at the exact time that it would make sense for us to make the connection, that is really what emotions are about. So I want to back up and just demonstrate that we probably are all relating or triggering or having an issue with just a couple base issues. They may play out in different ways. We may be mad at all kinds of different people for their behavior or what they do, but it really comes down to very specific things that emotionally charge us or challenge us or make us feel like have lost our footing and we're unsettled. So again, it's letting that wave come in, letting it come back. And just like with Quan, this isn't a wave of emotion that is going to just go away at some point. This will be with us for the rest of our lives. The loss of anyone that means something to us, the loss of anyone really, no matter what they mean to us, reverberates. And if it's someone that we strongly disliked, there may be guilt feelings with that. Our feelings matter. That's the point, whatever they are. And if you can get yourself in a place where you're comfortable letting the feeling come, notice what it attaches to. Notice how many times, or maybe even where it started. If you can go back and see where something connects to your childhood, where you first started maybe being bothered by this particular thing, you do yourself an amazing house cleaning, because now breath is able to move into those areas where it just couldn't find its way in before. They were tightened up, buttoned up, nothing was getting in there. So give yourself that open space to breathe by just making the connections. You don't have to go into old feelings. You don't have to re-feel them to acknowledge what they come from. And just to make it about myself for a minute, what all of my emotional triggers come back to at this point in my life, 5 years into this practice, breaking down all of the things that bother me, it's always, every single time, a feeling of abandonment. So that can play out in all kinds of different ways, but I am pretty much not going to be upset about anything unless it's abandonment. So let's go to Quan's passing. Of course, there's a part of me that feels abandoned because he's not here. We're not teaching this class that we were so excited about together. There's a lot of emotion about all of the hopes that were in place that aren't going to happen in the same way that we imagined them now. That doesn't mean they aren't going to happen. And I can look back on so many things that he's said and so many conversations that we've had and draw on the wisdom, draw on what I know he would be bringing and he would be saying. And that way it's not like he's gone. I mean, he's really right here, connected to me, connected through the Tantien, connected through my breath, connected through my open heart, connected through my words and through the language that we created around this our raw material practice. So while I hold space for so many people who are really, really struggling with the loss of him and not being able to feel him as easily as they might want to, I just want to create the space for people to learn how to do that for themselves and how to stand in all of your wounds proudly and comfortably and perfectly letting them just do this. Wave forward and backwards. And you able to breathe as the wave moves away. As soon as we pull it in, we have created something that can't breathe. So the challenge for this week, and I once again did not plan a challenge ahead of time, so I'm just gonna consult a Quan moment. And I'm remembering that he said trees for this session. I remember saying I was going to do my best to stick with that metaphor, and he's making it very challenging. So let's get still like a tree. Let's get within our own stillness, within the roots of our own emotions, and start to see where the root triggers are personally for you. You don't have to say these out loud. You don't have to do anything with them other than acknowledge them and start to see how these deep things that hurt you when you were young continue to refract and reflect the same feelings. But now we put these on other people. With some sort of expectation that someone should be different than we are seeing. And that really starts with the self. It's not just someone else, it's about us. Thank you so much for your interest in this practice. It's been amazingly emotionally uplifting to me to have so many people reach out and say things about him or offer support. And I think there is an abundance of resource, Pillar 10, in this community that is available at every turn. There's always someone to call. There's always someone to ask to show up, and they will. Quan has built a network that is emotionally charged in every way to just love what he loved and who he loved. So I am here to carry that on as I let my own emotions come and go. I'll be back next week when we'll talk about listening, and I'm really looking forward to that particular discussion because I have a little surprise for next week, and I will let you know what that is next week. Have a great week. Thank you.